Thanks a lot, everybody, and good morning. To start, I actually like to drift away from the normal protocol. Normally, I should thank Christine, Nadia, the sponsors, the dignitaries. I'm not going to do that today. We'll do that tomorrow. I actually want to start to thank all those farmers, technicians, small businesses that are working out there to really produce the food we get on our plate every day. They are the reason why we are here. They are the real heroes. Don't forget about that. And you may not know, but I come from the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center. One of the centers that's actually responsible for making sure that there's enough maize and wheat produced worldwide. And maize and wheat is one of the 3 crops that produce or that provide most of the protein everybody eats around the globe every day. And when we look at what future brings, I think we need to go back to what happened in history. And the history of CIMMYT actually started with a vice president from the US. Henry Wallace took his car, must have been a Ford, because back then I guess that was the only car available in the US. So he took his car and drove with his car from Washington, D.C. down to Mexico City. Can you imagine a vice president today even having the idea to go from Washington, D.C. down to Mexico City with a car? And he drove past many, many wheat fields in the northern part of Mexico and realized that the technology was actually very different, that it was lacking, that the wheat crops were not looking very good. And that's when he invited a young guy, a young scientist whose name's Norman Borlaug. And Norman Borlaug actually was a researcher researching trees, pine trees. Now, I give you one little advice. If you ever want to be famous, if you ever want to make a great PhD, do everything that you want, but don't research trees. You have 4 years for a PhD. By the time you plant a tree, you wait for 15 years, everybody's long gone. So Norman Borlaug actually researched rust in trees. And by the way, his granddaughter is sitting there. And Julie, we still suffer every day by trying to keep alive those pine trees Norm brought in and planted next to our stairs in the CIMMYT headquarters, and they're full of rust. But what Norman Borlaug did was he actually took advantage of an opportunity. In the Central Highlands of Mexico, there's an area where wheat will not grow very well, because it's attacked by a whole sweep of diseases. So exactly at that spot, he planted a whole bunch of different wheat varieties and looked at those that survived. And the ones that would survive, he sent them to the north of Mexico, where you can look at yield potential. So the ones that actually would yield a lot and would survive the diseases, those ones he would send to the rest of the world. That effort saved 1 billion people. That effort gave him the Nobel Peace Prize. That effort we still try to do today by safeguarding 27,000 different maize accessions, 170,000 different wheat accessions. But frankly speaking, if we don't use those small bottles of wheat and maize, which are nice to show to, I don't know if you recognize 2 people on this picture. People say you don't, but actually that's Bill Gates up there in the head. It's not an official picture, so don't tell him I showed it. And the left one is Carlos Slim. If you ever call on the phone in Latin America, you're giving money probably to this guy. And there's the Minister of Agriculture. And it's nice to bring them in this big fridge full of bottles of different colors of seed, but that's like a nice collection of postal stamps, right? if we don't use that biodiversity to really turn it into working crops, it would be a useless effort. But I'm happy to tell you that 70% of the wheat grown worldwide in developing countries is coming from CIMMYT. 15% of the maize grown worldwide is actually having CIMMYT background. And therefore, I'm obviously very humble to stand in front of this crowd. Exactly this year where we're starting, or going to close off the celebration of 100 years of Norman Borlaug's birthday. But frankly, that's history. Norman Borlaug is still inspiring us every day to keep on working. He's still demanding a constant permanent benchmark to achieve excellence in science. It's his memory and vision that we need to carry forward by taking it to the agricultural fields. And this is actually where the modern cars come to in the history. What's your favorite dream car? Yours, yes. A Lamborghini. This guy's going to work hard. He's going to innovate. He's obviously not going to make money. Then he's going to innovate again, not going to make money. Then he's going to innovate again, and then he's going to make a lot of money. And he's going to buy his Lamborghini. Do you think the day he drives out of the shop with his Lamborghini, by that moment, you're married, you have a 6-year-old kid, he's going to say to the 6-year-old, don't worry, you go and have a drive. Of course he's not. The kid will take the car and crash it into the first lantern pole or whatever electric pole he encounters. It's exactly the same with seed. We can make the best seed, but if we don't generate the capacity to get the potential out of that wonderful seed in the field, it's not going to work. Second step, this guy drives his Lamborghini. Do you think he's going to drive it on a gravel road? He's never going to get the 150 kilometers an hour out of it, 200 kilometers an hour out of it, if he drives it on a gravel road. We need the right seed. We need the capacity to produce that seed in a system that works, in an agronomic background that gives high yields, stable yields, and least impact on the environment. If you look at that picture, it's the maize at the left is exactly planted the same day as the one on the right. It has the same amount of fertilizer. It's the same seed. It was planted with the same machine. It received the same rain, the same sun. Everything is the same. The only difference is the left side is conservation agriculture. The right side is the left side is conservation ag. The right side is what the farmer does every day in the highlands in Mexico. The wrong agronomic practice. That's why we have long-term trials to actually look at what the impact is of growing those kind of crops in those kind of systems. But that's not enough. If you guys really want to make a difference, you need to go out there. Make your hands dirty. Don't sit in these nice chairs. Go out, visit farmers, and take the innovation to the farmer. Take the innovation to the value chain. Innovation is everywhere here. You guys have a huge potential. We're not going to feed 9 billion with potential. You guys have to turn it into reality. People say the biggest challenge is feeding the 9 billion. People say we can do it in Africa. We can do it in Latin America, breadbasket. You and I have a decision to take today. We will have to grow more food, 70% more, linear thinking. I love exponential thinking. There's one issue with it. If you look at countries that grow their economies exponential, it usually goes hand in hand with inequality, goes hand in hand with unsustainability, it goes hand in hand with a lot of side effects. We have a decision to take today. Even for that linear increase, you can take the decision to do it in an equal way, to make sure that women and men have access to the same information. You can take the decision to produce more food while safeguarding the environment. And you're going to do it by using cell phones. You're going to do it by looking at microbial organisms. You're going to do it by using big data. But I have a question. You all know this brand. In Spanish, they say, destapando la felicidad. In English, you say, happiness, Christmas, sparkles. No, guys, it's a dark brown drink with too much sugar. Nothing to do with happiness, nothing to do, but still, we buy it. This worldwide brand is an example of what we should be doing out there. Passion, changing minds, changing lives. And even that brand decided this year they needed to go personal by putting your name on the bottle. Think about it. It's about personalized solutions that work in general processes. It's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable that there's more technology in a Coca-Cola vending machine than in agriculture implement. Who of you have been trying to calibrate an agricultural implement? Raise your hands. Okay, you seem to have yeah, you have some, well, they're polished. So normally, if you calibrate an agricultural implement, at least you go out with 3 nails where you hit with the hammer. Because everything is metal, everything is screws, everything is very clumsy. It's totally unacceptable that there's more technology in a Coca-Cola vending machine than in an agricultural implement. Oh yeah, we're using drones, cell phones, whatever, but we're still using it when already everybody else is using it. It's time the agriculture sector puts their needs forward to the other sectors. And that's what we are trying to do in Mexico every day by building innovation networks, by connecting research with impact on the farm, by making sure that farmers adapt and adopt the technologies. We need to connect everybody and measure those innovation networks to know where we are. The best recognition of Borlaug's legacy is shouting out loud that farming is the future. It's our moral obligation to bring pride back to the fields. You can make agriculture back sexy. You can make it attractive. You can change lives by inspiring. Inspire for innovation. Inspire for intensification. Or like Norman Borlaug would say, to stay within kind of the moon analogy, reach for the stars, and you will catch some stardust. Thank you very much.